Welcome back to C News, the place where truth meets style, where stories unfold beneath the glittering surface, and where every royal whisper gets dissected under the brightest light. Tonight, we're not just talking about fashion or celebrity or Paris, we're talking about presence. Because when Meghan Sussex stepped into Paris Fashion Week, it wasn't just another appearance, it was a seismic cultural moment. One that left the establishment rattled, the internet in flames, and critics scrambling for new adjectives. So, let's cut through the noise and get straight to the story. The cameras didn't merely flash, they detonated. The instant Meghan Sussex emerged onto the Parisian cobblestones outside the Palais Garnier, it was as if the entire digital world inhaled at once. Every photographer, influencer and fashion editor found their lenses magnetized toward her, drawn by a force that had nothing to do with mere celebrity and everything to do with control. Within minutes, her image was everywhere. On screens, in stories, across continents. Paris Fashion Week has never been short of spectacle, but this wasn't spectacle. This was strategy. And Meghan, ever the master of silent rebellion, was playing chess while everyone else was still arranging their pawns. What she wore became secondary to how she arrived. There was no red carpet rollout, no glittering entourage, just a woman wrapped in cream and confidence. Her cape was cut like sculpture, pure architectural precision, ivory and deliberate, flowing around her shoulders with the weight of quiet authority. Beneath it, a simple white blouse, clean, sharp, slightly unbuttoned at the collar, signaling both ease and defiance. It was an ensemble that whispered instead of screamed, but its echo was thunderous. Her hair was slicked into a smooth knot that revealed her face entirely. No attempt to hide, no need to soften. The message was crystal clear. This is a woman who knows the power of being seen and the grace of not performing for it. The shoes were black, pointed, minimalist, a perfect contradiction to the extravagance around her. No jewels dangled from her neck. No oversized sunglasses shielded her gaze. Everything about the look rejected the performative nature of celebrity fashion. Meghan wasn't dressed to impress, she was dressed to declare, and that declaration was unmistakable. She no longer plays by the old rules. Inside the venue, conversations faltered. The industry's biggest names, designers, editors, stars, found themselves glancing toward her table, as though gravity itself had shifted slightly off its axis. And perhaps it had. Meghan carries that rare quality that cannot be manufactured, a magnetism born not from effort, but from energy. She doesn't chase attention, she absorbs it. Even her stillness speaks. As the show began, the focus drifted between the runway and her, unavoidable, unintentional, unstoppable. Her appearance wasn't random. It never is. Behind the elegance, there's always a message. This time, her attendance was an act of solidarity with Pierpaolo Piccioli, the newly installed creative director at Balenciaga, a designer whose work merges minimalism with soul. Precisely the language Meghan has perfected. She wasn't there as a royal, nor as a celebrity guest, but as a woman aligning herself with artistry and integrity. Every public moment she crafts functions on multiple levels: support, symbolism, and statement. Meghan has long understood that in an age of curated images, authenticity becomes the rarest luxury. And in Paris, she wore authenticity like a crown. Fashion for her has always been more than fabric. It's her armor, her storytelling medium, her way of reshaping perception. From her early days mixing thrift store finds with luxury staples, she showed an instinct for balance. Between accessibility and aspiration, simplicity and significance. That sensibility matured under the royal microscope, where every outfit became political. She learned quickly that clothes could silence or provoke. that a neutral palette could disarm critics while speaking volumes to those who listened closely. And now, free from the rigid codes of the palace, her style has evolved into something rarer, still, purposeful elegance. Paris Fashion Week, often dominated by theatrics, suddenly found itself redefined by understatement. In an environment of exaggerated silhouettes and peacock displays, Meghan's restraint felt honestly revolutionary. She wasn't performing fashion, she was embodying it. While others flaunted volume, sequins, and metallics, Meghan chose stillness, a deliberate quiet that forced the world to lean in closer. Critics later described her appearance as modern serenity, a masterclass in controlled presence, and a lesson in how to wield visibility without surrendering to it. Every phrase carried the same subtext. Meghan didn't come to play. She came to shift the narrative. Her evolution tells a broader story. Once dismissed as an actress navigating red carpets, she has transformed into one of the most analyzed figures of modern culture. Every hemline, every color choice, every gesture, interpreted, debated, and dissected. But what her detractors fail to grasp is that this is by design. Meghan weaponizes perception. She understands that when the world tries to define you, the most radical act is to define yourself first. Back in her royal days, muted tones were survival tactics, shades of beige and taupe chosen to blend into the background, to avoid upstaging others. But when she and Harry stepped away from that gilded stage, her wardrobe exploded into symbolism. Deep reds, unapologetic emeralds, radiant whites. These were, honestly, not coincidences. They were statements of rebirth. And Paris represented yet another evolution. The ivory cape wasn't just fabric, it was declaration clean slate, new chapter, renewed authority. Her presence at the event rippled beyond fashion commentary. Political analysts, social observers, and even feminist scholars began decoding her appearance as a modern exercise in power reclamation. A woman who had been dissected by the British tabloids, vilified by the establishment, and mocked by royal loyalists, now stood unbothered and untouchable in the heart of Europe's fashion capital. Not as a victim, not as an exile, but as influence personified. She didn't need to defend herself, she simply existed, and that was enough to dominate the global conversation. And that's what, in the end, really unsettles the institutions that once tried to contain her. Meghan's visibility no longer depends on titles or proximity to the crown. Her power is autonomous. The monarchy thrives on hierarchy, yet Meghan dismantled it by proving that relevance can't be inherited. It must be earned. When she enters a room, attention shifts, not because she demands it, but because she commands it. That distinction, between demand and command, is the essence of her transformation. Observers noticed that as the show progressed, designers and editors subtly gravitated toward her during the intermissions. Conversations paused when she laughed. Eyes followed when she moved. Even the fashion house's social team strategically highlighted her presence across platforms. Knowing her inclusion elevated the brand's narrative far beyond couture. It entered culture. Within hours, Meghan Paris was trending globally, overshadowing even the debut of Balenciaga's highly anticipated collection. And therein lies her influence. She doesn't need a runway to own one. As the night unfolded, her composure never cracked. She didn't seek the cameras, yet the cameras couldn't resist her. There were no grand gestures, no over-rehearsed poses. Just calm observation, an occasional smile, a knowing look. It was the quietest form of dominance imaginable, and that's precisely what made it unforgettable. In a digital world addicted to noise, Meghan's silence became the loudest thing in the room. Outside, the crowds had swelled. Fans, photographers, onlookers, all waiting for that second glimpse. And when she emerged, it was as though time briefly slowed. The street lamps caught the soft gleam of her cape, the flashbulbs erupted again, and the scene transformed into something cinematic. She offered a polite nod, a brief wave, and then disappeared into the Paris night, leaving behind an energy that refused to dissipate. Within minutes, social media feeds were flooded. Analysts broke down her body language, fashion experts debated the cut of her cape, royal reporters scrambled for sound bites. But honestly, the truth was simple. Meghan had already won the narrative. She always does. What makes this moment so significant isn't the clothes, it's the context. Here was a woman once told she was too much, too political, too outspoken, standing in the most elitist fashion circle in the world, embraced not as controversy, but as culture. The establishment that once dismissed her now courts her influence. The fashion world, once wary of royal drama, now recognizes in Meghan something deeper: endurance. Style fades, trends die, but endurance, that lasts. And Meghan Sussex has become endurance personified. For her supporters, the Paris appearance was vindication, a reminder that grace and resilience can outlast scandal and smear campaigns. For her critics, it was frustration, a realization that no amount of tabloid ink can erase charisma. And for Meghan herself? It was simply another step forward, another page turned in a story she writes herself. Every headline, every photograph, every gasp from the crowd, all part of a narrative she controls with the precision of a director calling her own shots. The cape, the stillness, the quiet smile, all were metaphors for how she's chosen to navigate a world that tried to box her in. She no longer reacts, she directs. And that, more than anything, is why her influence endures. She doesn't just appear at events, she redefines them. Paris Fashion Week became Meghan's runway, not because she strutted down it, but because she owned every inch of the space she occupied. As dawn broke the next morning, Parisian headlines captured the aftermath. Meghan reigns in white. A masterclass in subtle power, when silence speaks louder than the crown. Across platforms, the narrative was consistent. This wasn't just fashion, this was reclamation. Meghan had once again demonstrated the art of control, not by raising her voice, but by embodying it. When the dust settles and the cameras move on, moments like this linger. They become cultural touchstones, reference points in the ever-evolving dialogue about power, femininity, and perception. Meghan Sussex has become that dialogue. Every choice she makes, whether sartorial, philanthropic, or symbolic, forces the world to examine its biases and expectations. That is her true legacy. Not rebellion, not scandal, but transformation. So as the final lights dimmed over Paris and the fashion elite dispersed, one truth remained clear. Meghan didn't attend Fashion Week, she redefined it. She turned what could have been a routine celebrity sighting into a cultural reset, reminding the world that visibility can be a weapon, that elegance can be radical, and that silence, when used with intention, can roar. And perhaps that's why the world remains captivated. Because in a society obsessed with noise, Meghan Sussex's power lies in her quiet mastery of presence. She doesn't need to prove anything anymore. She's already rewritten the rules. And there you have it. The Meghan moment that left Paris gasping and the internet burning. Whether you see her as rebel, icon, or disruptor, one thing's undeniable. She knows exactly what she's doing. This was not just fashion. It was a masterclass in influence. You're watching CNews, where the story behind the story always takes center stage. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because we'll be here, peeling back the layers, one royal revelation at a time.